I broke the microphone on my Xbox Wireless Studio headset. Let's go ahead and fix it. Alright, so one of the unfortunate things about the current generation Xbox Wireless stereo headset is that the microphone assembly is pretty much screwed in the inside of this chassis and then soldered directly to the motherboard. One of the things I would have loved to have seen would have been this be like a USB-C port or something like that that just plugs right in. So if you want to take the microphone off, you can. If you want to plug it in, you can. And then if you need to buy a replacement, you can as well. Unfortunately, when I actually was traveling with this headset specifically, it was in my backpack. The plastic in this housing cracked due to pressure and strain that was going on. And because of that, I have to replace it. So this actually came from another stereo wireless headset. I got this on eBay. The guy actually broke the side plastic piece. I was like, you know what, hey, I would harvest the microphone for it, sell the parts in case someone needs it, and then film a video. So somebody might be able to use this in the future in case they do the exact same thing. So one of the first steps that we're going to need to do to this headset, which is my headset, is to go ahead and disassemble just the one ear. The other ear we will not need to touch. That's the ear that has the battery and all the other parts. But the ear that has the battery, we're going to disassemble, and we're going to pretty much swap the microphone assembly. We're going to take this and we're going to solder these 8 wires in, put everything back together, and we'll be all good to go. So one of the things we're going to start off with is the removal of this ear cuff, because there's no obvious screws or anything that holds any of this together. And this is actually very simple. All we do is just kind of peel away, and that'll slide completely off, and we can set that to the side. This is, by the way, the left ear cuff. Then we are presented with 6 Phillips head screws. These are very tiny, so I'm actually going to use an old screwdriver from an old iPhone repair kit. Not the best screwdriver for this job. Unfortunately, I don't have anything better right now. Would prefer something better with a lot bigger of a handle, because these screws are in there pretty tight from taking apart the previous headset. But let's go ahead and take those apart. Okay, now that we've removed all 6 of those screws, we're going to go ahead and peel away this assembly. We'll see that the cord for the actual headset is underneath this piece of sticky tape. All we need to do is actually just pull from underneath that, and that'll help us get the speaker a little bit more out of the way. If you want to, you don't have to do this. I'm going to do it because I've already taken one of these apart. I know that kind of the parts flapping around gets a little bit in the way. But I'm actually going to desolder this speaker. For your reference, the reddish color wire is on the right side. The yellowish color wire is on the left side. Just put some fresh solder on that to make things a little bit better. And now we have our removed speaker assembly. Once inside here, and it's going to be probably difficult to see, there are 4 Phillips head screws of the exact same size. We're going to go ahead and remove those. Okay, once these 4 screws are completely removed, this assembly will kind of move a little bit up and out of the way. Now, this is right on the edge of kind of, from a repairability standpoint of getting these wires back in, because there is very little to no wiggle room. And this wire is glued in on the other side. There is a chance that you could potentially pull this through and put some strain in the wire and desolder these and put it back on. Given the tight clearances, I'm choosing not to desolder that at this time. And we're just going to kind of shove it to the side. But now we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 more Phillips head screws we're going to need to remove, along with 2 that actually hold the microphone assembly in. And once we remove these 4 screws, we're going to get exposed to the 7 wires that hold that are the data channels for the button, the LED, and also the microphone on this little arm. And so once we get that board removed, we'll go ahead and desolder those and get going from there. But first, let's go ahead and get this board out. I should note that these are also of a larger screw head, so you don't have to use as tiny of a screwdriver on these, but just make sure you keep them separate for when you're reassembling the Xbox wireless headset. Okay, on the opposite side, we're going to go ahead and there's a piece of tape. We're going to kind of pick up on that along with our wires for the microphone that we have here. We're just kind of moving everything out of the way. And so now with that board exposed, we're now going to go ahead and desolder these wires here. We're not really using desoldering board or anything. We're just going to kind of add an extra little bit of solder, flood the port, and then pull each wire off so that we can start the removal process of the old microphone. So now we're going to go ahead and take out these two long screws with our larger screwdriver so that we can completely remove this old microphone assembly from the console, from the headset. Once those are removed, this whole assembly will completely slide out, and we can now throw that away and get our used replacement put in. So for this, we're just going to simply reverse the process that we used to assemble this. Now, the way that this goes in is that there's a small gap, and I'm not sure if this is actually going to show on video or not, that all these wires route through right here in the center. It's going to be a little bit difficult. You might have to do a couple wires at a time. I'm going to try to just force all wires in at once, see what happens. And we got lucky. Very lucky. Okay. So now that we have that back in, before I solder anything down, I'm going to put those two longer screws back in. Okay, so now with that done, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get prepped to solder all these wires and connections back to this board. But this board, from where we removed all those, is kind of a little bit messed up a little bit with the solder. It's not clean, it's not fresh solder. So we're going to use that. We're going to flood each one and kind of make it all look nice and pretty. The solder also has a little bit of rosin flux inside of it. So without adding any additional flux, we're going to just take and go over all these ports, level them all out, make them all look pretty nice so that when we solder back on, it'll be quick and easy. Okay, and so we're going to take each one of these wires, we're going to solder it back to their respective point. I'll put a wiring diagram on the screen so that you guys can see exactly where each one of these goes. Okay, actually I had to take a small quick break there. My phone battery was dying, so unfortunately didn't get there, but now we're going to go ahead and go through each and every one of these wires one by one. We're going to be using a pair of electronics tweezers. They are a very fine point. We're going to use those and we're going to solder those directly onto the points. Okay, so now that is soldered back in to all the corresponding points. Again, make sure you go back in the video, pause on that diagram to go ahead and see exactly what wire goes where. But now we're gonna go ahead and get our headset completely reassembled. So we're gonna flip this PCB over. Before we actually flip that over, I actually need to find it on my table. It went kind of somewhere. There's a green button that goes right here. That's going to be for your power on pairing controls. Need to go ahead and look for that real quick, and then we'll get back to reassembling. Okay, so we have our green button. We're going to go ahead and put that back into its slot. The slot does have an indentation to match up with this, similar to the Xbox controllers. So we're going to simply put that in and then rotate it to once it is sitting flush inside of that port. Okay, so now that is in, we can go ahead and start getting our PCB back in. So we're going to kind of rotate this around, make sure we don't damage our speaker wires or anything. And we're going to go ahead and kind of fold this PCB back in. And I'm also going to make sure that we don't have any wires in the way. We want to make sure there's no wires in the way of the switch in the back that is used for the rotary. Once that is back in, we're going to go ahead and put our 4 larger style screws back in into each corner. Okay, now that we have that back in, I'm going to make sure this wire going to our speakers is intact and still there. Make sure that we push that down. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to put our cup back on and align it with the 4 screw holes that are underneath. This might take a little bit of time to get right, but patience will get you to that destination. Okay. Now that's on, we're going to take one of our standard screws that has a very fine point and grab our fine tip screwdriver. We're going to put those all back in. Okay, and so now we're going to go ahead and solder our speaker back on. Again, yellow on the left, red on the right. So we're going to go ahead and put this back in. One of the things we're going to make sure to do is to tuck this wire, excess wire, underneath this little piece of tape that we have here. So let's go ahead and peel that up a little bit. Now we're going to line this with the hole, and we're going to put our 6 tiny screws back in. Okay, so now that we have all 6 of those screws back in, we can now go ahead and start putting our ear cuff back in. This is going to take a little bit of time because you have to pretty much bend this around the entire plastic. But once you do get that on, you'll be in a pretty good spot. Okay, so now we have that completely all the way around and seated. You'll see that those will line up pretty much at the bottom. Just kind of a little bit of rotation there, and that should probably get that. There we go. And now you can see we have our replacement donor microphone now installed on the headset. So let's go ahead and power it on, and let's go test it. Okay guys, so just went ahead and tested this. The Xbox headset is working. The mute button, mute, unmute is working. You see that little light turns on and off. So this is a successful repair. I have an Xbox wireless headset again, not using earbuds, so pretty happy with that. And then this process can be used for the opposite side as well. The opposite side is a little bit different, but that's if you want to replace the battery on the other side. And then it's just kind of a generic disassembly process for both the left and right side ear with slight differences between the two. So if they find this video helpful, make sure you like, subscribe, and then comment below if there's anything I can help you with in this disassembly process. This is more of a difficult repair, but with the right tools, soldering iron, tweezers, the right size screwdriver, this will be something that you can use to keep more electronics out of the landfill and potentially repair your headset. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.